When should you use in, on, or at after the word work? First, I'll teach you when it's appropriate to use each of these prepositions, and then I'll give you a quiz to see how well you remember the rules. By the way, I want to thank Maria for bringing up this question. Let's start with work in. First of all, we can use this phrase to describe the category or the field of work that we work in. I teach. I'm a teacher, so I could say I work in education. When I was younger, I worked in restaurants as a waiter and bartender, so I worked in hospitality. We can work in all sorts of fields, technology, finance, health. What field do you work in? Secondly, we use work in to talk about a specific department or division that we work in. For example, I work in the IT department, or I work in the men's division. And finally, we can use this phrase to talk about the location of our place of work. It would be fairly common to say something like, I work in a grocery store, or I work in an office. Just keep in mind that this is not going to sound natural if it's not indoors for the most part, and if it's not a location that we can imagine someone being in. While it's not totally incorrect, it would sound a little less natural to say something like, I work in a gas station, for example, because a gas station has an indoor part but also an outdoor part. And if you're talking about a place of work that's completely outside, like a golf course, it would sound really weird to say something like, I work in a golf course, because you're not in, you're out. It might depend on who you ask, but that phrase sounds completely wrong to me. It's very awkward. Now, because you can't get away with using in to describe every workplace, I would recommend using at. We can use at to describe the location of pretty much any place that we work. It is much more forgiving, and its main use is to describe the location of your work. This can be specific, like the examples from before. I work at a grocery store, I work at an office, I work at a golf course. All of these are fine. We can also talk about the company we work at. I work at Google, I work at Intel, I work at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I honestly can't think of any situation in which I work at would not work to describe the location of your workplace. Work. I guess the one thing to remember is that work at can't describe the field or category of work you do. So I would never say I work at education. That's why we need work in. Work in should always be used when describing your category or field of work. So let's quickly review what is the best use for work in to talk about the category we work in or the field we work in, or to talk about the department or the division we work in. When should we use work at? We should use work at to describe the actual location of our workplace or the company we work at. But what about work on? Well, in terms of describing the physical location of our job, it's probably the least useful. We can't really use work on unless our location of work is completely outside or almost all the way outside. So in this case, work on would actually be a really good choice for a golf course, because a golf course is pretty much outside. I work on a golf course. That sounds fine. We can also say I work on a farm, because a farm is, again, outside. But we need to be very careful, because even if we have a hybrid like a gas station where, the gas pumps are outside, but then you pay inside, it would sound really wrong to say I work on a gas station. That's not natural. There is, however, one job that work on does really well, and that is to talk about our participation or our inclusion in a group. For example, I work on a team, or I work on the board of directors. All right, quiz time. Would you use work on, work at, or work in? Either my sister works at a cat hotel, or my sister works in a cat hotel. Both would be fine. For this one, we would say my brother works in sales. Here we could say, I used to work at a restaurant. I worked in the beverage department. Or, I used to work in a restaurant. I worked in the beverage department. I like add a little bit better here so we're not repeating in, but both should be fine. I work on the board of directors. I'm kind of a big deal. I think I might enjoy working on a golf course. The fresh air would be nice. Or, I think I might enjoy working at a golf course. The fresh air would be nice. So how many of those did you get correct? Let me know in the comments. Now to be clear, work in, work on, and work at don't just describe our jobs or the places we work. They are also phrasal verbs. And I'm not going to teach you how they're used as phrasal verbs in this video, but if you want to learn about how they're used as phrasal verbs, you can click on this video.